Work besties, it's been a minute since we've just sat down and chatted. So I asked you all on Instagram to ask me questions. What's on your mind? What do you want to know? So I kind of know where to take the conversation. And you delivered. We have a lot of great questions here. So I guess sit back, grab a cozy coffee, cozy beverage, and welcome to this Q&A. So I had a lot of questions about wedding day, or just wedding in general. Are you married? Yes, I got married earlier this year. It was a dream come true. Wouldn't change a thing about the day. Favorite part of our wedding day? I think for me, it was just like how us it felt. I have a whole video kind of on destination weddings if you want to, get my insights on what my thoughts are on that and kind of why we went that way, but loved everything about it, wouldn't change it. I also had a lot of questions about how is married life compared to pre-married life. The exact same. Like, at least in our situation, nothing's changed in terms of our relationship, our shared assets. Like, none of that really changed. It was more just a day to get together to like celebrate us and our love and our journey. So yeah, that's the gist with wedding stuff. What country would you like to visit next? I have a pretty long list of countries I'd like to go to, but I'm actually visiting one soon that's been near the top of my list, which is Malta. And yeah, that's a couple weeks away and I'm really excited about that. So if you have any recommendations of what to do while I'm there, please let me know, because I don't have much of an itinerary yet. Not a question, just simply wishing you have a Donna Sue whenever you need one. I hope that for everyone. I really hope that everyone in their life has a Donna Sue, because especially when you're going through challenging times, she is just exactly the kind of person that knows how to hold space for you and support you and show up for you. And I hope you have that too. In your opinion, what's the most crucial part of a successful hire in a new position? Resume, interview, cover letter. I mean, out of those three, I would say interview. It's such an underrated skill to be someone who is enjoyable to work with. So I think having someone who fits into the culture of the team, the attitude of the team, also who fits in with like the company culture, the company values, but someone who's easy and enjoyable to work with and open to learning and adapting. And that to me is like, you gotta have the right personality fit for the job, I guess, depending on exactly what it is, but I would say interview, so you can really kind of feel out if they're gonna mesh well with the team, with the manager, with the management style. You should attempt some skits in a construction worker environment. I've actually kind of played with the idea of taking Project Poodles and putting them into like actual job sites of different kind of careers. The logistics on that and the planning would need to be something else, but I think that would be so funny of kind of like taking the series in person kind of meetings, but in actual office buildings, actual jobs. I think that would be, there's a lot of potential to have a lot of fun with that. What do I do to reduce stress and relax my mind? I think getting outside. Nature. I live in BC. I'm biased, but I think it's the most beautiful place in the world. So I'd say anything, just getting out in nature, getting off my phone, that really kind of resets me. So it's as simple as like going on a quick walk. How do you balance the work from home with travel and fun? Is it PTO that you take, or do you remote work? It's definitely a mix. I think with my travel schedule, I work remote some days or from some locations, or sometimes I'll do a mix. Like if I go somewhere, there'll be like a couple days of work remote and then a couple days of vacation. I have been so fortunate to be able to travel quite a bit. And so if I took every single day of traveling as like PTO, I would have a lot off, I would have a lot of vacation time. So oftentimes too, I actually am traveling for work. So it kind of, works out to be a really nice trip, but then also a lot of it is remote work. So it's definitely a travel. It's definitely not all PTO that I use. For example, when I go to Malta soon, I'll most likely take most of that as vacation. And then we are going somewhere after that is more work. So it's just kind of a balance depending on the trip. What is your favorite character amongst all your characters to play? Oh, I don't know if I have a favorite. I feel like I've been asked this before, and I mean, Donna Sue is really fun to play. She's really fun to write for. Brenda, I think Brenda's whole journey has been really fun to kind of see her go on, so that's fun to play in a sense. Bethany just has this like chill, but also really effective, productive attitude about her, which I think is really fun. I don't know. I think a mix of all of them. I think playing the universe of them and writing the scripts for them, I get a lot of enjoyment from. There's definitely some wigs that are way more comfortable to wear than others. So if we're talking wigs specifically, it's probably Donna Sue or Brenda. Are you from Toronto? I'm not, but I did grow up in Ontario. So not right in Toronto, but close by, and then moved from Ontario to BC. How tall are you? This is a classic I get all the time. I am 5'11" or 180 centimeters, I think it comes out to. So yes, I am quite tall. And I love it. And your interview tips for recent graduates. I think it's important to understand that a lot of your skills will be learned on the job, and so like hard skills, and so really leaning forward with your soft skills in interviews and how they might be applicable to the role, but not going in feeling this desire or need to understand exactly every single piece of the role you're going to be doing, because so much of job knowledge is learned when you're on the job. And so I would say really lean into those soft skills, those transferable skills. Do a good job of kind of showing your personality in a way that's comes across like easy to work with. And like I said earlier, I just think it's such an underrated skill, being pleasant to work with and easy to work with and open to learning. And I think it's really important for an employer to understand that you're willing to learn, you're open to adapt. And I would say really lean into those soft skills. What is something that keeps you grounded in this hectic life? For sure, my family, my partner, my dogs. I just think my day-to-day is very grounded, and my day-to-day is very like normal. Yeah, I think the life that I'm currently living off screen is a very grounded life, is probably how I'd answer that. And so my like reality is grounded. And then of course I've had, amazing opportunities to do things that I couldn't even dream up. I never would have saw myself in this situation, but those are the exceptions, not the day-to-day rule. And so I always just come back to like my roots and who I am and what I enjoy. And you should do a lunch with followers. You know what? We're actually planning, or in the process of trying to plan, a kind of coffee meetup where we just get together at this local coffee shop and we basically just hang out and we can chat about whatever you want to chat about. And it's a bunch of work besties just getting together and hopefully networking in you can network in a professional way, sure, but more in just like meeting people in your community with similar minds, similar interests, and just like sipping on a warm beverage together. So stay tuned. We're aiming for like end of November, and it'll be on Vancouver Island in BC. How hard was it to move across the country away from your family? So I moved across the country about 4,000 kilometers away from where I grew up, away from my parents, away from my partner's parents. It's interesting because my family is split coast to coast. So while I was moving away from my parents, I was moving closer to other family members. And so it was kind of nice in that sense to be moving close to some people I haven't lived close to for years. And I also know that my family or my parents, they enjoy traveling. They fly out quite often to come visit me. I'm also back on the East Coast quite often. So we actually see each other fairly often, which has been nice in the transition. It was definitely challenging establishing a new normal and leaving everything that I grew up knowing in my day-to-day and having to just like reestablish everything. Definitely takes some time, but I would do it over and over again because it was such a good thing for me. What happened to Linda after she was fired? I don't know. I haven't connected with her in a while, but I'm assuming she got another job. Probably from the buddy that she called up after the interview asking if the job was still available. That's my best guess, but if you're interested, are you interested on like a side spin-off of Linda, or are we kind of over Linda? You let me know. Biggest fear and how do you overcome it? I have a big fear of open water, so like the ocean, and I overcome it by exposing myself to it. I like to go surfing. I went scuba diving for the first time a couple months ago, which was, you'd think, the most horrifying thing because my, fear of open water, and also it was really murky that day, so it was quite freaky. But I think anything that scares me, I like to lean into, or I try to lean into, and not just avoid it, because the things I tend to fear are really, really cool. Like they're really fascinating things. And so, yeah, if I fear something, I try to expose myself to it in like a manageable way. Like I'm talking baby steps. If I get out there and I want to surf and I get rocked by a couple waves and I'm freaking out, I'll go back to shore. But I definitely don't try to shy away from my fears. And that's kind of how I overcome them or come to terms with them. Like, I think I'm always going to have a fear of the deep ocean because there's just so much we don't know about it, but I'm also so fascinated by it. Will we ever see Work Bestie, or will we just get to see another elbow? Okay, Work Bestie, if you don't know, he is the one who is in all the How to Professionally Say videos, the Moist videos, if you've seen those. And Work Bestie prefers to keep his identity private, and I respect that. And so anytime we're doing a video together or whatnot, I don't show his face out of respect for his boundary there. So that's why he won't be shown. I don't foresee a day he ever becomes comfortable being shown or wants his identity revealed. So right now I'm gonna say no, you probably won't ever see his face, but that's of course his boundary to set and his boundary to change, and I just respect what he sets. Are you cautious about being yourself on social media? And are you mindful of how an employer might view you? So I would say I'm cautious about what I share on social media when it comes to my personal life. Not because of fear of an employer seeing it or something, more so just because in my life, I always need to remind myself that I chose to share things publicly. I chose to be online, to have a presence on social media. Not everyone in my life chose that, and not every piece of information about my personal life is only mine to share. And so I'd say I have quite a few boundaries in place of like what I'm okay with sharing online and talking about, and then things I'm not as okay or just kind of want to keep private to myself. I think it helps create more of a healthy boundary or healthy relationship with social media, because once you start sharing everything, and no shade to anyone who does this, that's great if that works for you, but once you share something, you don't ever get that back just for yourself. And so I think I've just been really mindful about what I share, when I share, and also making sure that the people in my life, if they're part of that story too, that they're comfortable with that piece of information being shared or them being shared or whatnot. So I would say that's more where I'm cautious on social media. I'm not too worried about, potential employers seeing my content and what they're gonna think. That's not something that I don't know. That's not something I lose sleep overnight too. So yeah. Pack up before or right at 5 o'clock or the end of your workday. People seem very divided. So pack up before 5. No, I would say pack up at 5 because you're working till 5 and then you pack up and go. That's where my mind goes. Are people divided on this? Is this like a conversation I'm not aware is happening? Packing up before you're off work or packing up after? I say packing up after. Yeah, like if you had a meeting or something till 5 and then your workday's done, then after that, you pack up and go home. Why am I overthinking this so hard now? What do you think? What travel headphones do you use? I actually have 2. I have the Sony WXM5, the over-the-head Sony ones, and they're fantastic. I also have the Apple ones, the Apple AirPod Max, I think that they're called. Both of them are phenomenal. The price points are quite different, and so I do with that information as you will. But I usually travel with both, or my partner will use one and I'll use one. But I've been using the Sony ones for 3 years now, and they have not failed me. They're fantastic. And then the Apple ones were a recent one in the last year, and so I'll also travel with those sometimes too. Those are typically my go-to if I want like an over-the-ear noise canceling headphone. Are your dogs whippets? Yes. I have 2 lovely whippets who are probably upstairs by the fireplace right now because the temperature has dropped below 15 degrees, and that's where they'll be until next summer. Any advice for someone struggling to figure out their career path? I think when we grow up and we go through school, we don't necessarily do a good job, or the system doesn't do a great job of educating us on all of the roles that are available or that are out there or a possibility for us. And so I would say keep trying to get exposure to or meet people who work in tons of different industries or jobs and understand more about what they do, because sometimes there's a job that I've come across throughout my career where I'm like, wow, I didn't even know that existed, but I'm so into the sounds of that. So I think the more you expose yourself to different jobs that might be available, then you might start to learn or start to hear some that are like, wow, that's actually maybe a direction I want to go in. I didn't even know that was a possibility. So expose yourself to people have conversations, even if people have had longer careers, maybe ask them what they've done throughout them, and then get into detail about, like, hey, what does that entail? What does a day-to-day look like for that? And also I would say, don't put any pressure on yourself to try to figure it out overnight. I think for me, as I've gone through different seasons of life, my desire with career and my priorities with career have changed so much. And so every different season has kind of almost come with, okay, well, what job works with this season of my life and what do I want to accomplish within career, versus trying to figure out now what's going to work in my life for all future seasons when I haven't even arrived there yet. That's what I would say has been really helpful for me, is kind of revisiting it as my life has changed, making sure that as much as possible, if you can, that job fits within your life and your life is not fitting within the job, if that makes sense. And then talking to people. Like, I've heard of the coolest careers in the last couple of years that I didn't even know existed. So get exposure to more careers, and maybe something will start to click. Do you still have a mother in the picture? You never talk about her. So this is a good example, coming back to the boundaries online. Yes, I do have a mother. My parents have been together for many, many years. I don't know the exact number, and when they watch this, they're gonna be like, come on. It's over like 35 or something. They have been together forever. My mom is not comfortable on social media. She's not comfortable with like being on camera whatsoever. And obviously you've seen my dad is, and so that's just why my dad is featured. But oftentimes my mom will be there as well, just behind the camera. She'll be involved. She really enjoys watching the content and seeing it come to life, and she just wants nothing to do with being on camera of it. And so I just respect her privacy, her boundaries. I don't talk about her on social media because she just prefers it that way. And so I roll with it. What's your favorite childhood cereal? Okay, the first two that come to my mind, and this was before I was diagnosed with celiac and I could actually eat these. So these are not gluten-free for anyone who's like, why are you eating? Anyways, Raisin Bran and Shreddies, but I would put brown sugar on both. And that is like a core childhood memory of being at my grandparents'. And I know someone's like, ew, of all the choices, that's what you pick. Yeah, that is what I pick. Shreddies with a little brown sugar or Raisin Bran. Those were my go-to. Have you printed out any of your wedding photos? I have not. And that is something that we've been meaning to do. And so you just reminded me I should probably do that. The only thing is I don't know where to print them, or how big I want them, or if I want them on a canvas or I want them in a frame. Like, there's just so many decisions. So I probably just need to figure out step one of where to do them. So the plan is to, but no, have not done that yet. How did you start content creating alongside having your 9-to-5 career? I was basically would do my 9-to-5, or my hours at that time were 7 to 4 with like an hour lunch. And then I would either script or film during my lunch hour or after work and on weekends. And it was just kind of like around the clock, and it began to be quite a lot. But yeah, I was just kind of doing them both simultaneously. I'd get inspo during the day, not from like specific scenarios, but like, oh, I could make a video around like this topic, and then I would just kind of like throw in a notes app during the day, but not deal with it until my lunchtime or after work. And then that was kind of like content time, and then social media time, and then 9-to-5 time. They were longer days, but it was also during, the lockdown COVID days, and I had nothing else to do and nowhere else to go. And so that occupied quite a bit of my time, and I overlapped those for quite a while. Jeans for tall girls. It's a tough one. I understand the struggle. Jeans for tall girls. I would say I get a lot of my jeans from Dynamite has some with longer inseams. Reformation. They're a bit more pricey, but they're totally worth it. And they do long inseams on most of their pants. They're probably my favorite. And then a recent one I ordered from was Gap, because I noticed that they had a tall online, and I feel like I've heard some hype around Gap jeans, and those should be in the mail in the next week. So I'll let you know how I like those, but they definitely have a longer inseam as well. So those are my 3 off the top of my head kind of go-tos when it comes to us long-legged ladies looking for some denim. How long does it take to make a Project Poodles video? Great question. So a bit of my process there is I will always go through the general theme of the video or the title of the video first in my brainstorming, and then I'll always batch film, so I'll do between like 3 and 7 videos. So I'll come up with the general themes, who I want in the videos, and then I'll usually let that sit for a day. And then the next day will be script writing. So I'll go in and I'll do the detailed scripts for all of them. And then I will batch film a handful of videos. And then a different day I will go in and I will batch edit them. I usually split it up amongst multiple days just because it takes quite a bit of time. And I usually have other things during the day that I need to focus on too. So I can't just have like my whole 8 hours for multiple days, just be dedicated to it. So that's kind of my process. I'll break it up into chunks and then be able to batch upload so that I'm always having more content than, like, I'll always have a queue of content so that I'm not like, oh, I need a video to go up tomorrow, I have to do that today. I usually plan like 2 to 3 weeks out. So like the next 2 to 3 weeks of videos are already done and scheduled. Would you take a job that you like, but likely at risk, or a new job at better pay, more growth, but that you might not like? Again, like, I think it comes back to the season of your life that you're in. Like, what are you prioritizing right now? Is it something that you're really enjoying? Is it flexibility? Is it stability? It just depends. Like, I think it's important when it comes to career to remove the job from it and talk about priorities and what you're looking for right now in career. So something that's really important to me right now might be, stability. It might be pay. It might be flexibility to do things I want. Maybe it's working remote for that flexibility. Maybe it's doing something that I really, really enjoy, and that kind of trumps, the pay. Do I want a job that's a little bit more risky? Or I think writing all of those things down and seeing what works for where you're at right now in life, it'll give you a lot clearer of a direction forward versus I think sometimes when we get into these scenarios, we get into okay, what should I want to do? Like, what has society told me that I should prioritize in this situation? Like, I really love this job and it's risky, but I was always told, take the stable one, even if you really, really, really do not enjoy your day-to-day work, but the pay is better. All these priorities, I think we need to remove any external noise, any external titles to them, and just come back to what do I actually want and what makes sense for me, and then just own your decision, because whatever happens with that decision moving forward, at least for me, if I made that decision 1,000% for me in a way that I felt was really aligned with myself, I will never regret the outcome because I own that decision. The only times where I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that is when I didn't go with what I really wanted and really trusting of my gut and what I knew to be true. And then I went with the decision of well, I should do this because that's what I'm supposed to want to do. And then things don't go good. And then you're like, yeah, that might not have been a great choice for me. So I would say prioritize what works for you and then make the decision based on that is kind of the best advice I could give you, not knowing your situation or anything. But that was, a lot of the Q&A we got through. There was still a lot more questions. If I didn't get to your question, I do apologize. Maybe I'll make another one. But if there's anything else that you'd like to know or anything I touched on in here that you have thoughts on and opinions on, drop them in the comment section. I'd love to give them a read. As always, thank you for being here, work besties, and I'll see you in the next video. Toodaloo.